Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story: the Treasury Department slapping sanctions on a Chinese cybersecurity company. This after Chinese hackers breached the Treasury Department plus AT&T and Verizon networks. Details on how the hack affected millions of Americans. Japan's Nippon Steel's $14 billion bid to take over U.S. Steel blocked by President Biden. More on concerns among U.S. lawmakers over Nippon Steel's exposure to the Chinese state. A move putting American EV makers on alert. China planning to restrict technology exports that are key to building electric cars. A week after President Biden launched an investigation into legacy Chinese microchips. And after the New York Times published its 10th article within 5 months against one dance company, a longtime employee decided to speak up, detailing the company's business success and origin story. Now he's warning fellow Americans about Communist China's infiltration here at home.
That is what they have been doing to us for decades, and that is their next step, infiltrating into the United States.
The Treasury Department sanctioning a Chinese cybersecurity firm Friday that's over allegedly hacking over 250,000 devices around the world. The firm is called Integrity Technology Group. U.S. State Department said hackers from this Chinese firm targeted U.S. companies, universities, telecommunication firms, government, and media organizations, adding that this company is a contractor for Beijing and that it has ties to China's top intelligence agency. This comes after U.S. officials say Chinese hackers breached the Treasury Department. A third-party software provider alerted that Treasury that Chinese hackers gained remote access to certain Treasury workstations and the documents stored there. The Treasury Department is a trove of juicy intelligence for Beijing. The agency holds sensitive data on global financial systems, and it's also in charge of carrying out sanctions against Chinese firms. It's not just government officials on the radar of Chinese hackers, though. A top White House official said last week that Chinese hackers geolocated millions of Americans after breaching major telecom providers in the U.S. 9 companies fell victim, from AT&T to Verizon. NTD's Juliet Song has the details.
The telecom breach allowed Chinese hackers to track the locations of millions of Americans and record their phone calls. That's according to Ann Neuberger, a top White House cyber official. It's unclear how many Americans were affected. Neuberger said many of the Americans that were geolocated are based in Washington, D.C. The same group of hackers also breached Vice President-elect J.D. Vance's phone. President-elect Trump's phone was reportedly targeted as well. The Chinese hacking group behind it, called Salt Typhoon, was extremely successful. Neuberger said its campaign has affected dozens of countries around the world. Here in the U.S., it gained access to 9 telecommunication companies. The White House didn't publicize the victims' names. T-Mobile gave a statement saying bad actors tried to infiltrate its system, but that the company was able to stop hackers from accessing customers' calls and texts. Are Chinese hackers still lingering inside U.S. telecom networks? It's unclear. Last month, U.S. officials said they had not been able to expel these Chinese hackers. They urged Americans to turn to encrypted messaging apps if they're concerned. By the end of December, AT&T and Verizon said their networks were targeted but are now secure. Zooming out, China has been waging cyber attacks against the U.S. for over a decade. But this one was among the most far-reaching, affecting major U.S. telecom companies, millions of Americans, and even then candidates for U.S. president. The breach also rattled U.S. intelligence communities. They're now worried that Beijing could have learned who the U.S. is spying on. The Justice Department uses legal wiretapping on suspects in some cases. Chinese hackers also obtained a near-complete list of those phone numbers. Worse yet, Neuberger said it's difficult to track the impact of the breach, as Chinese hackers are very careful about their techniques. Neuberger says the full scale of the campaign may never come to light. China denies hacking U.S. telecom networks, calling the allegation baseless. Following the hack, the U.S. moved to ban the remaining operations of China Telecom Americas. This company is the U.S. subsidiary of one of China's largest telecommunications companies. It's controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Juliet Song, NTD News.
Last year, FBI Director Christopher Wray issued a serious warning.
We found persistent PRC access in our critical telecommunications, energy, water, and other infrastructure sectors. All of this with the goal of giving the Chinese government the ability to wait for just the right moment to deal a devastating blow.
PRC is short for China's official name, People's Republic of China. On top of the sectors mentioned above, Chinese hackers also targeted over 20 U.S. pipeline operators. U.S. officials warn that China threat is closing in.
From the FBI's perspective, these threats are not over the horizon. They're upon us now.
It's unclear if the FBI has severed Chinese hackers' access. President Biden blocking Nippon Steel's $14 billion bid to take over U.S. Steel. Nippon Steel is Japan's largest steelmaker, and its China ties have sparked concerns from lawmakers about the takeover. Biden said he blocked the deal because it poses a threat to U.S. national security. He noted the acquisition would place one of America's largest steel producers under foreign control and create risks for foreign supply chains. Senator Sherrod Brown is the head of the U.S. Senate Banking Committee. Last year, he asked Biden to investigate Nippon's ties to Chinese authorities. This comes after a report saying Nippon operated 9 facilities in China. Nippon also has joint ventures with state-owned Chinese companies. The report said Nippon's China operations risk sharing technology and expertise with China's industrial base. Months after Senator Brown's inquiry, Nippon said it would dissolve its joint venture with Bao Steel, China's national steel champion and its largest steelmaker. This could cut Nippon Steel's production capacity in China by 70%. Still, Nippon would produce about 1 million tons of steel in China every year, and it still maintains a joint venture with Wuhan Iron and Steel, a Chinese state-owned steelmaker. Nippon Steel said its Chinese partners don't have access to information about its operations. Back to Biden's decision to block the deal, it could be challenged in court, as Nippon has indicated that it's prepared to take legal action if the deal was blocked. President-elect Trump has said he would block Nippon's takeover of U.S. Steel. China's Commerce Ministry proposed restrictions Thursday directed at crucial know-how used to make batteries and process minerals used in them. This comes as Donald Trump vows to counter cheap Chinese products, flooding the market by imposing high tariffs. NTD's Flora Hua has more. Flora, what can you tell us?
Yes, Tiff, the proposals target technology used to process 2 minerals, lithium and gallium. Adam Webb, senior executive at the Mineral Data Analysis Agency, said the plan would allow China to retain dominance in battery supply chains if it does pass through. Furthermore, it would also grant Chinese authorities the power to control non-Chinese companies that rely on lithium batteries because they would need to apply for certain license. Zooming in, 70% of the world's lithium comes from China. Beyond car batteries, the mineral is also a key component for everyday devices like smartphones and laptops.
Journalism or political campaign in the favor of a foreign adversary. The New York Times has published 10 articles within 5 months, targeting a world-class dance company, Shen Performing Arts. The company travels the world with a mission to revive traditional Chinese culture and raise awareness for a faith group that's brutally persecuted inside China. Recently, the paper decided to take aim at Shen rapid growth and business sensation. And some China analysts warn the series could aid Beijing's transnational suppression of those who fled its communist rule. Jared Mattson, a master of ceremonies with Shen since 2007, joins us to talk about the company's worldwide success and what China's threats against faith and freedom on U.S. soil could mean for Americans.
So the article seems to overlook the entire fact that Shen started by practitioners of Falun Gong, many who had fled China under duress, under persecution. The performance company had two main goals. One was to tell the world about the persecution of Falun Gong, but really that wasn't the main goal. The main goal was to revive traditional Chinese culture that the Chinese Communist Party had been suppressing in China for decades. Those were the main goals. To suggest that we started a theatrical company just to make money is ridiculous. And that's kind of the whole point of the article. But because of very good business practices, finding ways to have the business run well, to sell tickets, all of that, we were able to make money. If we didn't have a good show, people wouldn't come buy tickets, they wouldn't see it. So in essence, the New York Times is praising us for doing a great job at selling tickets.
The New York Times series of articles comes as a human rights group published a leaked document from Beijing last year. In it, the communist regime laid out its plan to eradicate faith group Falun Gong overseas, especially in the U.S., quote, by any means necessary. The paper has been publishing single-sided articles against the dance company since last August, painting the company and its members' religious beliefs in a negative light. The frequency and angles of the New York Times reports are raising questions around where the paper stands in terms of Beijing's transnational suppression campaign.
So Shenyuan and Falun Gong are almost like the Communist Party is just testing this in America, testing this in the United States to see what will happen. And my prediction is that it will not stop at us. It's going to start, and it already is. That is what they have been doing to us for decades, and that is their next step, infiltrating into the United States.
Last year, the DOJ charged at least 9 individuals for acting as foreign agents on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. That includes a former top aide to 2 current and former New York governors, Linda's son. Another one named Shen is currently serving his 20-month-long sentence in prison after he tried to bribe the IRS to cancel Shen Yun's non-profit status. Coming up, Chinese-owned short video app TikTok banned in a European country for 1 year. More on the controversy. And an expert breaks down the Chinese Communist Party's malign influence, efforts to divide the United States, and its political warfare using proxies on American soil. He lost his daughter in the fentanyl crisis. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Chinese-owned video platform TikTok banned in a European country for 1 year. Albania's prime minister says the decision aims to reduce violence among young people. Before the ban, the Albanian government had discussed the idea with parents and teachers, but opponents say it's part of a crackdown on political dissent after a year of unrest. Let's dive in.
Ergis Kattiaj uploads videos on TikTok daily, advertising his shop in Albania's Tirana and attracting business through the app. He says his sales on TikTok add over $1,000 to his monthly profit. But this is all set to change, as Albania's 1-year ban on TikTok comes into effect early this year.
Banning TikTok will have a huge impact on me because I go live at 11 p.m. and I say, hello, how was your day? I'm starting to do deliveries now. Who wants to order any cigarettes, alcohol, beer, potato chips in Tirana? I will bring them to you. I regret this because I have invested a lot in this way of marketing with all my soul.
Prime Minister Edi Rama announced the ban after a 14-year-old boy was stabbed to death in November by a fellow pupil, a crime that local media reports said occurred after the boys clashed online. Albania's government says the ban is aimed at reducing youth violence, and Rama says outside of China, TikTok has, quote, only scum and scoundrels. Why do we need that here? But opponents worry that it is part of the Prime Minister's crackdown on political dissent after a year of popular unrest. Orkidia Hafaraj is from the Tirana-based think tank SciDev.
One of the dangers of the ban is that it may interfere with what we call digital rights and freedom of expression. This also creates a dangerous precedent that at any moment governments can close different platforms.
The move follows bans or partial bans in at least 20 countries. Due to worries about improper videos or security concerns linked to the app's owner, China-based ByteDance. TikTok is now expected to be taken down in Albania in the coming weeks. And while some oppose the move, others are welcoming it, such as Fiorentina Sacco, who says she witnessed the stabbing in November.
All the governments that have taken such decisions have referred to the crimes that are happening. These kids only watch negative things on TikTok. I think it's a good decision for the moment. Let it be shut down for now, and let's see how things develop after the ban. Then it's on all governments' hands to keep it shut down or not. Me personally, I'm in favor of shutting down TikTok.
In the U.S., efforts to ban TikTok are picking up speed. The popular app faces controversy in the states over the alleged presence of harmful content for young users. But another issue seems to be even more crucial for authorities. In recent years, over 30 states have banned TikTok from being installed on governmental devices. That's due to national security concerns that the Chinese Communist Party could access user data. Next, NTD's Steve Land spoke to Steve Yates, a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation, where they focus on China and national security. They discussed the Chinese regime's malign influence, including efforts to divide the United States and political warfare that uses proxies positioned inside America. Yates lost his daughter to fentanyl poisoning in 2023. Almost all chemical precursors of fentanyl found in the U.S. come from China.
And just to state, so sorry for your loss of your daughter. I know it's still relatively raw, being just about a year out. With that said, Steve, if you could sort of unpack the term, the CCP's malign influences.
I use the Chinese Communist Party in part because I don't believe that the People's Republic of China deserves to claim the mantle of Chinese history and civilization. The Communist Party organized and conducted a revolution against everything before it, called things the olds that they had organized their revolution against. It disgusts me in a certain way to hear these revisionists in the Communist Party in China speak as if they are the inheritors of the tradition that they demonized, not just in ideological ways. They killed people and took away their lands and their way of life in the name of politics and as a part of their revolution, the initial revolution and the Cultural Revolution. And so I use the CCP term partly because I think it's important to disabuse the Western world from this false notion that the People's Republic of China is just continuity as opposed to a fundamental break. And they think, well, they have thousands of years of history. Well, the People's Republic of China does not. And so this is in some ways is part of that Confucian exercise of rectification of names and defining terms. As clunky as it is in English, I still think it's important to separate the Communist Party of China being the evil force that we have to try to contain and hopefully defeat from the culture and civilization of China. The malign influences part, again, it's not a natural way Americans would talk. When I talk to my son, if I use the term malign influences, he'd look at me and, what are you talking about, Dad? But if I say, well, they're manipulating our kids through TikTok. They're manipulating our leaders through financial inducements. They are distorting the information that's on our news in a variety of ways. They've compromised our entertainment industry. That these are all malign influences. And then if they want to buy our agricultural land and shape what our universities will study, these are all ways of getting America divided and defeated without them having to do anything themselves. Then my son says, well, that does sound pretty bad. Well, that's what the word malign means. And it also echoes with what a malignant tumor would be like. And I think of it like a cancer. So this is, when I'm talking about the malign influences, I'm talking about the things that we allow them to do, by and large. They're not necessarily breaking laws, although illegally shipping chemical precursors for for fentanyl is illegal. But a lot of these areas of influence, buying into our entertainment industry, giving grants that shape what universities do, that's not illegal, but it's malign. And we need to be aware of it. We need to organize against it.
The operative word being malign and malignant. It seems like the examples that you just listed, the common denominator is they're all sort of uses of proxies. And we often associate the term proxy with Iran and Hezbollah, but actually the Chinese Communist Party has mastered the use of proxies. Their fingerprints are all over everything, but they're somehow able to avoid culpability. How big of a challenge is this, and how can we address it?
It's a massive challenge, and you're exactly right about that they are masters at doing this, and they've had a long history of doing it. Part of it is, again, the Communist Party drawing some lessons from the dynastic past in China that they criticized and rebelled against. But if you think of the leadership of China now being an imperial court, and courts tend to have jesters in it, but the courts also have people who come to pay tribute and homage and bow. And we have had a period of half a century where American and other political, government, and business leaders would go and bow to the court. It wasn't an imperial court, they thought, but they've gone and they've bowed to that court. And then what the Chinese Communist Party has done is they would brand people as being friends of China. It sounds very friendly. It sounds very good. But as friends of China, I expect you to go back to your country and help protect our friendship and help put maybe pressure on people that are so mean and criticizing your friend back here in China. But they have done a masterful job of using these intermediaries, sometimes willingly because there was a profit motive, sometimes because they got treated like royalty when they visited China, and it made them feel really good. And they went back home and they were happy to be a part of the enterprise, but in some ways unwittingly doing the Chinese Communist Party's bidding. So we're not having top communist leaders having to come and argue for grants at our universities or investments on Wall Street or purchasing ag land or otherwise doing these things. They're getting their proxies to do it.
For the full episode, please visit ntd.com. That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you soon.